Before sunrise on June 16, 1976, a school shirt is pressed flat in Soweto. A child ties black shoes, not for class, but for a march. The air smells of coal smoke and dust. Somewhere, students are already gathering, whispering roots, folding hand-painted placards so police cannot read them yet. Soweto was not one neighborhood. It was a world beside Johannesburg, built by segregation, crowded with workers, families, churches, schools, and watchful police vans. Apartheid tried to make race into law, geography, schooling, wages, movement, even language. It did not only separate people, it ranked them. Under Bantu education, black children were taught for a future the state had already narrowed. School was designed to train obedience, not possibility. So when officials reached for the language of instruction, students understood the deeper insult. This was not grammar. This was power entering the classroom. In 1974, the government pushed Afrikaans as a medium for subjects including mathematics and social science in black schools. For many students, Afrikaans sounded like police orders, courtroom sentences, and humiliation at checkpoints. English was no simple freedom, but Afrikaans felt imposed. Curtis Nkondo, an educator, described Bantu education with a brutal image, like vomit poured onto the face of a black child. By February and May of 1976, boycotts and protests had already spread through Soweto schools against compulsory Afrikaans instruction. Adults had warned, teachers had objected, but the children felt the daily weight most directly period after period, lesson after lesson. On June 13th, student representatives from Soweto schools formed an action committee and planned a peaceful demonstration for June 16th. That detail matters. The march was not born from chaos. It was organized by students who believed discipline could protect them. They wrote placards by hand, they practiced routes, they expected to walk, sing, deliver their message, and return as children do, hungry and proud. Student organizers intended a peaceful march, moving from school grounds toward a mass meeting where their opposition could be heard. Morning comes cold. Uniforms appear at gates. Younger children follow older ones because courage, like fear, travels quickly through a crowd. As students left their schools, groups merged into larger columns, and the protest grew beyond the size organizers had first imagined. Vilakazi Street becomes the spine of the story. Houses press close, voices rise, the children carry outrage, but also ceremony. By the time the march reached Vilakazi Street, Britannica estimates about 10,000 students were present, though some estimates run higher. Pause. Then the line appears: police, vehicles, weapons, authority, and boots. The children stop because the state has arrived in their path. Police move to stop the march. Accounts describe tear gas and warning shots before officers fired directly into the students. Some children sang, some threw stones, some ran because bodies know danger before minds can name it. The morning cracked open. Hastings Glovu and 12-year-old Hector Pieterson are recognized among the first students killed when police opened fire. Softly, Hector was 12. Old enough to know injustice, young enough that the world should have protected him without question. In the confusion, Mobius Amakubo lifted Hector's body. Hector's sister, Antoinette Sithily, ran beside them, grief already moving faster than speech. Photographer Sam Nunzima captured that moment, creating the image that became inseparable from Soweto and apartheid's violence. Zima later said, "I saw a child fall down. Under a shower of bullets, I rushed forward and went for the picture." The photograph does not let the viewer remain distant. A boy is carried. A sister runs. A government story collapses in one frame. The image spread internationally, forcing newspapers, governments, and ordinary readers to confront the cost of apartheid schooling laws. Apartheid had many defenses: bureaucracy, censorship, distance, denial. But a photograph of a child made denial harder to hold. The Cilia Commission later counted 575 dead and 3,907 wounded, figures many have disputed as too low. Numbers can clarify. They can also shrink pain. Behind every count was a household waiting for a child who did not return. After June 16th, resistance spread through South African communities, with protests, strikes, funerals, and confrontations continuing through 1976 and beyond. Funerals became gatherings. Gatherings became protests. The state tried to restore order, but mourning had learned to march. Parents faced an impossible terror. protect children by keeping them home, or honor the fact that children had already chosen the street. School boycotts and youth organizing continued for years, shaping a generation that linked education, dignity, and liberation. Historians still debate how much older liberation movements shaped events, but accounts from Soweto keep returning to one point: students moved first. The South African History Archive emphasizes that youth took charge, organizing the uprising around their own experience of school oppression. They were not symbols first, they were students. They had homework, siblings, jokes, crushes, worn shoes, and a line they refused to cross. That line was language used as a weapon. Not Afrikaans itself, but compulsion, contempt, and the state's demand to be obeyed. Officials framed Afrikaans instruction as policy. Students experienced it as another layer of apartheid control inside already unequal schools. When you remember Soweto, resist making one photograph carry everything. Let it open the door, then walk through to meet the many children behind it. Remember Hastings Limplavu too. His name often arrives after Hector's, but the violence that morning did not choose only one child. Hastings Ntlovu and Hector Pieterson remain linked in accounts of the first student shot during the police attack. Hector's name became known worldwide. That fame was never the same as justice. It was a demand placed before the world. South African History Online identifies Hector Pieterson as 12 years old when police killed him in Soweto. The photograph made Hector visible. The anniversary asks us to make the system visible too. Classrooms, laws, guns, and the arrogance behind them. The Hector Pieterson Museum opened in Soweto in 2002, near the place where students confronted police violence. Since 1994, Democratic South Africa has marked June 16th as Youth Day, honoring young people's role in the struggle for freedom. If you can, read survivor accounts before the anniversary. Start with South African History Online and the South African History Archive. 50 years is close enough to touch. Many who marched were children then. Some are grandparents now, carrying memory in their bodies. Anniversaries can become ceremonies of distance. Soweto resists that. It asks what happens when young people recognize humiliation before adults admit it. Britannica describes the uprising as a major turning point in the struggle against apartheid and a shock to South Africa's government. International outrage did not end apartheid overnight, but it changed the temperature. The regime's violence had been dragged into daylight. The Hector Pieterson photograph became one of the central images through which global audiences understood apartheid's brutality. Across the world, people who had never stood in Soweto now had to answer a simple question: what kind of state shoots schoolchildren? Ask why a language mandate frightens students so deeply. The answer is not in vocabulary. It is in who gets to command a child's future. Afrikaans was spoken by real communities with real histories, but apartheid made it an instrument of state authority in black classrooms. The disputed instruction covered subjects like mathematics and social science, placing the language battle inside the daily machinery of learning. That is why the uprising still speaks to classrooms everywhere. Language can welcome a child into knowledge or lock the door from inside. Bantu education's purpose was not equal learning. It reinforced apartheid by preparing black students for restricted roles in a segregated economy. When studying apartheid, watch the nouns. Policy can sound clean. Behind it are children, families, police, ministers, and choices made by people. The students did not wait to be granted seriousness. They claimed it by walking together. School uniforms turned into a public argument. Breath. There is a moment in every unjust system when the young notice the adults have learned to endure too much. Even the official Silie figures remain contested, with many South Africans arguing the true toll of death and injury was higher. Survivors carry more than dates. They remember running feet, cracked voices, smoke in the throat, and the sudden silence after gunfire. If this story helped you sit with the anniversary, consider liking or subscribing. It helps more listeners meet these young people. 1994 brought democracy, not amnesia. Youth Day asked South Africa to celebrate freedom while remembering the children who paid toward it. South Africa's post-apartheid government made June 16th Youth Day, transforming a day of state violence into a national remembrance of youth courage. But remembrance should not smooth the edges. The children of Soweto were brave because adults with power forced bravery upon them. Soweto at 50 is not only a South African story, it is a warning about classrooms, languages, and governments that confuse control with education. When children said no to compulsory Afrikaans, they were saying yes to dignity, memory, and the right to learn without humiliation. And that is why, half a century later, the road through Soweto still carries their footsteps.